You're refreshing your business account, watching numbers that don't make sense anymore. Yesterday, you expected a payment that should have covered payroll for the week. Today, it hasn't come in. You check again, as if repetition might change the outcome. It doesn't. Your phone rings. It's your supplier. You already know the tone before you answer. We can't extend you again. You close your eyes for a second, calculating. You have 48 hours before salaries are due. 3 employees depend on you. Rent on the office is overdue by 9 days. 2 clients haven't paid. 1 has stopped responding completely. Cash flow isn't tight anymore. It's broken. I just need a few days, you say. You said that last week. You don't argue. You don't defend yourself. You end the call and sit there, staring at the screen. This isn't a slow decline. It's a collapse that has finally reached the surface. You open your email. There's another message. A client terminating their contract. Immediate effect. You do the math again. It doesn't work. Not this time. You pick up your phone and scroll to your wife's name. You hesitate for half a second. You haven't told her how bad it is yet. Not fully. You've been managing the situation quietly, hoping to fix it before it becomes real for both of you. You call her anyway. We need to talk tonight, you say. There's a pause. Is everything okay? You don't answer directly. We'll talk when I get home. You hang up and look around your office. Everything here used to represent growth. Now it represents obligations you can't meet. You open your laptop again and start listing options. Loans, emergency funding, selling assets. None of them move fast enough. By the time you leave the office, you've made one decision. You're shutting the business down. Not because you want to, because keeping it alive for a few more weeks will only increase the damage. You go home knowing that tonight changes everything. You sit across from her and explain everything to her, the numbers, the debts, the decision. You expect questions, concern, maybe frustration. She listens without interrupting. When you finish, she nods slowly. So what happens now? She asks. You answer honestly. I don't know yet. That's the moment you step into a different role. Not a business owner managing growth, a man managing loss. The days that follow are structured around damage control. You inform your employees. You pay what you can. You negotiate the rest. Some understand, some don't. You don't blame them. You close accounts, cancel services, return equipment. Every action is about minimizing impact. At home, things shift subtly. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. Conversations become shorter, more practical, less connected. She asks about your plans frequently, directly. What are you going to do next? You don't have a clear answer. I'm working on it. You start applying for jobs, reaching out to contacts, exploring options you hadn't considered in years. The transition from building something of your own to asking for opportunities feels different, unfamiliar. You track your expenses carefully now. The margin for error is gone. Savings decrease steadily. You calculate how long you can sustain this. Weeks pass, then months. You get interviews. Some go well, some don't. You adjust your approach. You refine your answers. You present your experience in a way that translates to employment. At home, the distance grows, not through arguments, but through absence and silence. She spends more time out, more time on her phone, less time engaging with you. You notice it, but you don't confront it immediately. You tell yourself it's stress, adjustment. The situation affects both of you. Then, one evening, she brings it up. I didn't sign up for this. You look at her, trying to understand the statement fully. For what? This instability, this uncertainty. You nod slowly. I understand. I'm fixing it. She shakes her head slightly. You've been saying that for months. You feel the weight of that, because it is accurate. I'm doing everything I can, you say. I know, she replies, but her tone suggests that knowing isn't enough. The conversation ends without resolution. You return to your routine, applications, calls, follow-ups.
You start getting offers. Not ideal ones, lower pay than you expected, less flexibility, but stable. You accept one. The transition is immediate. Fixed hours, predictable income, a structure you haven't operated within for years. It feels restrictive, but necessary. You tell her, "I got a job." She nods. That's good. But the reaction is measured. Not relief, not excitement, just acknowledgement. You expect things to improve from here. Stability should change the dynamic, remove pressure, restore balance. It doesn't, because the issue was never just financial. It was identity. You realize that slowly, in conversations that don't happen, in the way she looks at you now, not with hostility, but with distance. You try to reconnect, suggest spending time together, rebuilding routines. She agrees occasionally, but the engagement isn't the same. It feels like maintenance, not connection. You begin analyzing your own behavior. Where did things shift? Was it the business failure alone, or the way you handled it, the time you spent trying to fix it instead of communicating, the months of uncertainty? You don't find a single answer, just a series of small moments that accumulated. Then one night, she asks to talk. You recognize the tone. It's not exploratory. You sit down and wait. "I don't think this is working anymore," she says. You don't interrupt. You let her continue. "I've been thinking about it for a while. I need something different, something more stable, more certain." You process the words carefully. "This is temporary," you say. "I don't think it is," she replies. There's no anger, no accusation, just clarity. You realize something in that moment. Her decision didn't start today. This is the conclusion of a process you weren't fully aware of. "What are you saying?" you ask. "I think we should separate." The word lands cleanly. No hesitation. You consider your response. Argue, convince, promise change. You choose none of them immediately. Instead, you ask one question. "Is there anything I can do to change your mind?" She pauses, then shakes her head. "No." That answer simplifies everything, not emotionally, strategically. You understand the structure now. This isn't a negotiation, it's an exit. You don't escalate the conversation. You don't plead, not because you don't feel it, because you recognize that pressure won't create commitment. You discuss logistics, living arrangements, finances, practical steps. You handle it with control, not because you're unaffected, because you've learned how to operate under pressure.
The days after feel quieter, not empty, structured differently. You adjust again. Work becomes your primary focus, not as an escape, but as a foundation. You stabilize your finances further. You reduce unnecessary expenses. You build a buffer. You also start rebuilding something else, not a business, your own direction. You analyze what went wrong beyond the external factors, market conditions, cash flow issues. Those are real, but they're not the full picture. You identify decisions that increased risk, overexpansion, delayed pivots, optimism without sufficient data. You document everything, not as regret, as information. Months pass. You regain stability, then momentum. You start a new venture, smaller, more controlled. You apply what you've learned. You manage risk differently. You don't rely on a few large clients. You diversify early. You maintain reserves. You track metrics more closely. The growth is slower, but stronger, more stable. You don't talk about it much, not publicly, not to her. You're not building to prove anything anymore. You're building because it's what you do. Occasionally, you think about the relationship, not constantly, but enough. You analyze it the same way you analyze business decisions. What was within your control? What wasn't? You recognize that support during success is common. Support during failure is selective. Not everyone is built for it. That realization changes how you view relationships, not just romantic, all of them. You look for alignment in values, not just compatibility in good times. You test for resilience, not just attraction. You don't rush into anything new. You build your life first, structure, stability, direction, because you understand now that external relationships amplify what already exists. They don't replace it. Years later, your business grows beyond what the previous one reached, not explosively, sustainably. You manage it differently. You operate with less ego, more awareness. You don't assume permanence. You prepare for change.